Hey, what is up, mortals? It is TCCrew here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 3 of What If Deku Was a Super Soldier. I just want to greet you guys with a sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So we begin. Unusual. If there was one term to describe this situation, it would be that word. Nothing like this has happened to soldiers since he started doing missions for his boss. He had gone underground a few times and certainly experienced weirder situations than this. But this one isn't so much weird as it is out of the ordinary. He had considered the possibility that this was a simulation out onto him by a target he had failed to kill, but dismissed it as soon as he realized he never failed a single mission, and no one he had gone after should be still alive. Then he thought this could be a dream as well, but then realized,
why would I dream something like this?
Senshi. The green knight was pulled out of his thoughts by what was in front of him. Some guy he found naked in the lab after he received a text from his boss. When he had brought this guy to his apartment, he had found none other than the small grape-headed boy that was expelled by Mr. Aizawa sitting down in front of his apartment door as if he had been expecting him to come home. That was the boy who had pulled him out of his thoughts as he was just standing in his kitchen with the mysterious guy also in his kitchen.
Mind telling me how you found my home?
Rizzo said as he practically oozed killer intent as he looked down at Mineta. He was also reaching for one of his kitchen knives when he asked this. Mineta then tried to ease the killer intent of the war machine standing in front of him when he responded.
I wasn't stalking you. It was a coincidence.
You've then got on his hands and knees and cried.
I just was walking and I found your name on the door. Please help me. My parents kicked me out when they found out I got expelled.
Why am I feeling bad for this pervert?
Rizzo asked himself. The third person in the kitchen interrupted. He's not lying, sadly. The other two got knocked out of their daze as this was said, and the malice that fogged the air lifted, making the mood of the room a lot less intense. It was just awkward now.
Wait, Rizzo? Who's this guy?
Mineta had questioned. The tired-looking man responded sarcastically. Thank you for asking. My name is Hitoshi Shinso. Nice to meet you. Then he switched his tone to a more laid-back one. By the way, got any coffee?
Well, there you go.
But how do you know him?
The coffee machine is right there, by the way.
Rizzo responded, clearly dodging the question. Many minutes of arguing and yelling later, Mineta, Senshi, and Shinso had all calmed down, and the latter two had, at this point, both congregated in the living room now, both of them sitting on different ends of the couch.
Wait, so mind telling me why you were alone in the lab, Shinso?
The greenette inquired. Don't know, he responded.
What about your quirk?
Just normal brainwashing. I talk to people and they respond. That's how I do it.
All right.
Rizzo then sat down. Then he started to think as he mumbled to himself.
It's clearly not dangerous, neither is Mineta. I am not sure if I can trust either of them, but I can certainly at least help Mineta and kill Shinso if he's a spy. If it is a local trigger for his quirk, I imagine earplugs will help. He doesn't look too physically capable, so killing him should prove simple.
After minutes passed of him sitting and many more of him thinking to himself, he decided to answer the two teenagers about his answer to help them or not.
Fine. You both can stay. Ground rules are 1. Don't go in my room or you'll regret it. 2. I expect my apartment to be cleaned every day if you are to stay for free. Lastly, don't bring anybody over. I don't like people too much.
Rizzo then went off to bed and left the other two to their devices, hoping that he didn't have to kill his new roommates. Next morning, where do you take the pot off the stove? To cook my breakfast, duh. Instead of being woken up by his 7 o'clock alarm, that deadly cinnamon roll had woken up at 6 o'clock by his new roommates. He walked into the kitchen after he got dressed for school, only to see the catastrophe in front of him. In front of him was plates broken on the floor, sticky balls littering the walls, the smell of smoke in the air, and Minoru Mineta and Hitoshi Shinso staring each other down across the dining room table. To simply say that the cold-blooded killer owned this apartment was pissed was an understatement.
You perverted dumb! You caffeinated moron!
They both were cut off simultaneously as two knives got lodged in the walls behind them, just barely missing the front of their face and actually grazing the cheek of Mineta, deep enough to draw a small amount of blood. They turned to the thrower of the knives, both with terror struck into their hearts. Before them, a being of pure malice and bloodlust started to speak.
I expect this house to be spotless when I get back, and both of you stop arguing this instant.
The school day was rather lax compared to the hectic morning Rizzo had just gone through. Classes were pretty much normal from what he assumed a normal school would be, especially considering that despite his intelligence, Rizzo had never gone to school. It was now lunch. Rizzo had just gotten his food from the lunch rush and sat down. He had just broken apart his chopsticks when he heard a tray of food getting placed on top of the metal lunch table below. A familiar and angry voice spoke.
Oi! Stay taken, nerd!
The person was Katsuki Bakugo, one of Rizzo's classmates and arguably one of the only people he had met that could even have a chance of killing him in Class 1A. No response was uttered. The green-headed boy just decided to ignore him and let the explosive blonde sit down. This would prove difficult, however, considering that the blonde does not like being ignored.
Oi!
The blonde yelled as he slammed his palm in front of the greenette. Not even an acknowledgement from the greenette. He just kept eating as the blonde tried to get his attention.
Is he ignoring me?
He thought to himself. Crackles can be heard as he tried to intimidate Rizzo.
Why am I so angry about this? I just met this damn guy yesterday. Stop ignoring me!
Bakugo was then cut off as he felt something sharp, as something cold and metallic then pressed up against his throat. He saw the person that was doing this, Rizzo Senshi, still sitting down and his eyes staring holes into Bakugo, and a metal knife that is typically used when eating food in America is being held by the greenette blunt end against Bakugo's throat.
If I knew you were going to be annoying, I wouldn't have ignored you. But since you are annoying, I feel tempted to kill you just to end it. After all, it'll be easy.
No one bothered interrupting the two most deadly people in Class 1A while they were like this, so most pretended that this wasn't actually happening. The greenette stood up and left, dropping the knife on the table as he got up from the table. Bakugo also left. The two arguably most intimidating people in Class 1A had just issued an unspoken challenge to one another. However, one of the teens in particular was, while talking a big game, nervous if he could actually beat the blonde.
I know I said I could beat him easily. However, with his prowess with his quirk, I'm not sure.
Before we get back into the video, I'd like to talk about our new channel, Celestia, our channel dedicated to all Dungeons & Dragons. Currently, we have a series breaking down different spells in D&D, and soon we'll be starting some new series as well. If you're a fan of D&D, or have an interest in learning about it, check it out. Additionally, if there's something you've always wanted to get made into a video, head over there and leave a comment mentioning it. I coming through the door like a hero! It was now the last period of the day, and All Might had just entered the door in his Silver Age costume and explained that he will be teaching foundational hero studies at UA. All Might marched forward heroically towards the podium as he began to speak. Welcome to the most important class at UA! Think of it as Heroing 101! And today's class is... He then revealed a card that said battle. At that moment, Bakugo turned around to face Rizo, and his face practically oozed murder. Rizo looked away for some reason, almost as if he was nervous about fighting Bakugo, but he didn't quite know why. However, All Might yelled to get the class's attention. One of the most important aspects of being a hero is... A button was pressed. Looking good! Several rows of suitcases jutted out of the wall. In these cases are hero costumes that were made according to the forms you submitted before school started. Everyone yelled with excitement. Now get suited up and meet me at ground beta for today's lesson. Many minutes later, at ground beta, the entirety of Class 1A is standing in front of All Might as he is giving a speech about what will be occurring during today's lesson. They say the clothes make the pros, and behold, you are the proof, Rizo whispered under his breath.
Could have said it better myself, All Might, but thanks.
Momo, who was standing right next to Rizo, whispered. Rizo then answered bluntly.
You say something, Senshi? No.
They spaced out from what All Might was saying as their back and forth continued while whispering.
So, Rizo, that's a rather interesting costume you have.
Momo blushed slightly while she gave the compliment. Rizo turned his head slightly, noticing her outfit, and responded.
I like the design of your costume. It seems to complement you in regards of your quirk creation, even if it exposed a bit of skin. I can tell you had functionality in mind.
Then, for the first time, Momo saw Rizo giving something remotely similar to a smile.
Good job.
Now let's draw lots! All Might yelled. Yaoyorozu just now realized she missed everything said about the exercise. Once everyone drew their lots, these were the teams. Once everyone drew their lots, there were the teams. Team A. Team A, Yuga Aoyama and Momo Yaoyorozu. Team B, Toru Hakugare and Koji Koda. Team C, Rizo Senshi and Denki Kaminari. Team D, Ejiro Kurishima and Rikato Sato. Team E, Hanata Sero and Tenya Ida. Team F, Fumikage Tokiyami. Team G, Shoto Todoroki and Ochako Uraraka. Team H, Mezo Soji and Mina Ashido. Team I, Koyoka Jiro and Katsuki Bakugo. Team J, Mashiro Ojiro and Suyu Asui. And the first match of the day is... All Might dug his hand into the two boxes beside him to reveal. Team B versus Team D. With Team B being the heroes and D being the villains. Everyone else, come with me to the viewing booth. Inside the viewing booth was several cameras that showed the building everyone was going to fight in, and a board that showed the next matchups afterwards and who would be the villains and heroes. The battle between Teams B and Team D was pretty self-explanatory, almost. Hero Team wins! The whole Class 1A was shocked, not noticing that the invisible girl had grabbed the bomb because she was invisible and couldn't see her. The only thing that gave it away was the girlish cheering of their classmate celebrating her and Koda's victory. The next battle also was surprising. It was a seemingly unfair battle with Team J being the villains and just Tokuyami as the singular hero. As soon as the bell rang, the bird-headed teen entered the door, hiding in the shadows as he went up the floors. On floor 3, he right passed his classmate Sue, who then called to her classmate Ojiro, who guarded the bomb.
We have company, Ribbit.
Tokuyami then reached the door they were guarding the bomb in, and received a tail to the face and staggered back. I see you've found me, villain. Tokuyami uttered as stoically as ever. Ojiro responded.
It's best if you give up, Tokiyami. It's 2 against 1.
That may be, but you are no threat. Tokiyami said. Dark Shadow! A shadowy bird creature appeared and lunged towards the tail teen, wrapping capture tape around him and leaving him out of the battle. Tokiyami walked towards the bomb and... Hero Team wins! The third match was Team H, Soji and Mina, versus Team A, Oyama and Momo. The match was pretty unfair when considering the last two. Unlike the last two, though, this was not an underdog story. Hero Team wins! Momo and Aoyama had lost. When faced against Soji's Recon and Mina's Acid, the two teams stood no chance. They had put up a great fight, though. The next match was Rizzo and Denki as villains and Bakugo and Jiro as heroes. Rizzo decided to say one last thing to the saddened Momo as he left.
You fought well, but you can't win every battle. Have more confidence, and maybe you can win the next one.
Bakugo stared daggers at Rizzo, and the fated battle between two enemies had begun. Somewhere in a different part of town, Dr. Suhai and Dr. Guraki from the League of Villains were talking about their latest partnership.
So, tell me, how do you create a weapon like Soldier?
Suhai was rather annoyed at Guraki due to the fact that he seemed to know everything about his work. He was rather nosy as well, which didn't help Suhai's want to kill the doctor. Regardless, he put on a smile to hide his intentions.
My quirk, to simplify, I can suppress the mind. Memories, emotions, will to live, perception, etc. I used my quirk over several sessions and trained the boy torturously, and he obeyed. The rest is history.
He was intentionally leaving out various factors such as mental fortitude or physical trauma could undo his quirk, but he wasn't about to give these villains a way to prevent their downfall.
Stop looking down at me! Stop mocking me!
Bakugo was venting his anger out on the greenette. He was still mad about what happened at lunch and was more or less venting his frustration. Rizzo had underestimated Bakugo's skill. Both of them were a match. Scorch marks littered Rizzo's clothes, and cut marks littered Bakugo's. Both of them were so bloodlusted and angry that they really were going to kill each other.
Fine, if you're going to ignore me, you damn Deku!
He wrapped his fingers around the pin of his gauntlet as he aimed towards Deku.
Kaichan, I am ignoring you because you piss me off. But if you're going to be like that, then...
He readied his knives to throw them right through Bakugo's skull. They both fired and threw their attacks at each other. They both yelled in unison.
Die then!
Then die!
Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we'd just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye, and have a divine day.